All right, let's deep dive this suddenly interesting matchup with the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Welcome into our Bella Early Edition. I'm Trenny Casey alongside Tom Giles, our Patriots insider Tommy Curran, and from Boston Sports Journal, we have Mike Giardi. Tommy G, I'm going to start with you. Giles, do you think he comes back? Joe Burrow, you think he's on the field Sunday?
I would say less likely. Like if it's 50-50, I'm leaning towards him not doing it, but it would certainly be a lot more interesting if Joe Burrow's on the field. Otherwise, you got to match up with the Bengals and Joe Flacco, whoever it is that's out there for them playing quarterback. Like they're not good. They're bad. Just watch that game last week against the Steelers, where they just got absolutely hammered. I hope it'd be nice for him to play. That's where we're at with the Patriots, where you're not just like, hey, just take anyone you can. It's like, oh, no, it'd be interesting to see him play against Joe Burrow.
Definitely, I agree. I mean, Burrow's one of the best in the league when he's at his best, but I don't know what the upside is for Cincinnati to give him 2 full practices and send him out when he hasn't seen live ammo in however many weeks it's been since the toe went bad on him. So to me, I would say unless Cincinnati has aspirations, and they should at least broadcast aspirations, that we're still playing to get into the playoffs, and 10-7 doesn't mean you're out, so we could win them all, then you would go ahead and push it. But I can't imagine why. I have great respect for Dan Orlovsky, but fully expect seems a massive leap to me, given how teams treat their franchise quarterbacks, especially one as brittle as Joe.
Desperation. I think there's a lot of people in Cincinnati. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. There's a head coach who's concerned about losing his job, and they're not going to fire the GM, Duke Tobin, because he's good friends with Mike Brown. And Mike Brown, as we know, that's a family business. His dad and Duke Tobin's dad were best buddies. Now Duke has kind of assumed that role. Duke's not going anywhere. So if they're going to make a change, it's going to be Zach. So Zach's got to be looking at this saying, I got to try to win out. And the player himself is going to say, I want to play. Like, this is our whole point. So he's going to try to push this. The problem for them is 30-plus isn't going to get it done because their defense is the worst defense in the National Football League. It's the worst defense in DVOA since 2000. Like, they are incredibly horrific defensively. Like, Patriots could score 40 if they're even remotely sharp in this game.
Which is why I sort of feel like I'm not going to go as far as Dan Orlovsky and say I fully expect Joe Burrow, but I would not be surprised to see Joe Burrow play on Sunday for the reasons you mentioned. One, Zach Taylor, I said this earlier, Zach Taylor's job is on the line, and the only way they get in the postseason is if they win out. If you lose on Sunday, you're out of the postseason altogether. Zach Taylor doesn't have a job anymore. And Joe Burrow, from everything I understand when I was watching ESPN today, they say he's a really competitive guy who wants to be out there. Similar reminds me, I think, a little bit of a Jason Tatum, who if he's ready to go, he's going to at least give it a whirl. How much more difficult, Tom, does this game become if Joe Burrow is behind center instead of Joe Flacco?
Honestly, I don't think it becomes that much more difficult because you see a guy who, again, hasn't played in that long. It's behind a porous offensive line who can't protect whoever's back there. So to me, it's not like this game gets radically different. Joe Burrow that you're going to see on Sunday, if indeed he plays, is not going to be the Joe Burrow you saw leading the Bengals to the Super Bowl a few years ago. It's going to be rust. He might come out and play like Brady did in 2016 coming back from suspension, but Brady didn't have an injury. Right. It was a suspension. The one thing I'll say about the injury is, can it get worse? Can he protect himself? The things that Mike Vrabel used time and again about Christian Gonzalez, I think, would apply with this too. Can he protect himself? So if he can move around, then that's a check mark. And can it get worse and turn into something that lingers into next year if you push it now?
The other thing, too, is that he's getting back on the field for the first time since week 2 without his number 1 target. Mm-hmm. So that's huge. If you have to buy time, can you buy time with what you're talking about, Tom, with the toe injury? Because you're probably going to need to because you don't have the guy who seemingly always gets open with Jamar Chase. Yeah,
there's one other aspect, too, is that Joe Flacco not practicing. He said it's maintenance. Joe Flacco was a sprained AC joint. So he's had to take shots to play in each of the last 2 weeks. So, he's 40 years old. It's possible that, it's not feeling any better. In fact, it might be feeling worse. And they don't want to go to Jake Browning because, as they saw earlier this year, Jake Browning not going to lead them to any wins. So maybe, again, that sort of pushes back hey, Joe, if you could do it, if you can protect yourself, let's give it a whirl.
I forgot about Jake Browning.
Yeah.
I will say this. The first 2 games of the season, I looked at Joe Burrow's stats, only 113 yards passing in the first game, a win over the Browns. In his second game, only 73 yards. He was hurt, so it's not like he came out gangbusters at the start of the year, even though the Bengals actually started hotter than usual.